For 10 years, Emma mourned her husband. She cried for him, prayed for him, visited a grave that contained no body. Everyone believed he had drowned in a boating accident, including her, until one photograph destroyed everything, because the man she'd spent a decade grieving wasn't dead at all. The first year was the hardest, not because Emma was certain Daniel was dead, but because a part of her refused to believe it. Every knock at the door made her heart race. Every unknown number made her stop breathing. Every time she saw a man with the same build walking down the street, she found herself staring. Grief wasn't a straight line. It was 1,000 tiny cuts. Some days she accepted reality. Other days she convinced herself there had been a mistake. Maybe he had lost his memory. Maybe he had drifted somewhere and survived. Maybe he was trying to find his way home. The human mind could create endless possibilities when the truth was too painful to accept. At night, she would lie awake replaying their last morning together. The kiss, the smile, the casual goodbye, the ordinary words that had somehow become sacred. If she had known it would be the last time she ever saw him, she would have held him longer, asked him to stay, told him she loved him one more time. But life never gave people those chances. The last moments never announced themselves. They just happened. And then they were gone. Or so she thought. The financial problems started 6 months later. Daniel had handled most of their investments. He had always been better with money. At least that's what Emma believed. The insurance company delayed payments while investigations continued. Without a body, everything became complicated. Paperwork accumulated, bills accumulated, savings disappeared. She sold jewelry first, then furniture, then eventually the small lake house they had dreamed of retiring in someday. Watching strangers carry their belongings out of that house felt like losing Daniel all over again. Every room contained memories. Every wall held pieces of their life together. By the time she handed over the keys, she felt as though she was burying the last remains of her marriage. Friends tried to help. Family tried to help. But grief had a way of isolating people. No matter how kind others were, they eventually returned to their own lives. Emma remained trapped inside hers. Years passed, slowly, painfully. The world moved forward without asking permission. Stores changed, neighbors moved away, businesses opened and closed. The seasons kept arriving, and somehow she survived all of it. Not gracefully, not heroically. She simply kept going, one day at a time. One bill at a time, one lonely evening at a time. By the 5th year, she no longer expected Daniel to walk through the front door. By the 7th year, she could say his name without crying. By the 10th year, she had finally learned how to live with the hole he left behind. Not heal, just live. There was a difference. The scar remained. She had simply stopped touching it every day. For the first time in a decade, Emma felt something she never thought she'd experience again. Peace. Not happiness, not joy, just peace. And that was enough. She rented a small apartment, worked as a manager at the bookstore, spent weekends gardening, made friends, started smiling again. The woman staring back from the mirror was older now, stronger, wiser, more cautious, but she was alive. And after everything she had endured, that felt like an accomplishment. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, her phone rang. The call lasted less than 3 minutes, but it shattered 10 years of healing. Mrs. Walker, yes? My name is Rachel Bennett. I know this is going to sound strange. Emma nearly hung up. Strange calls happened all the time. Wrong numbers, scams, salespeople. But something in the woman's voice stopped her. I'm sorry to bother you, but I think I may have a photograph of your husband. The world stopped. For a moment, Emma thought she had misheard. Then she laughed, a nervous laugh, the kind people made when something was impossible. My husband died 10 years ago. The woman on the other end became silent. Then she spoke carefully. I know. Emma's smile vanished. I was visiting a small coastal town in Oregon last month. The woman paused. I took photographs at a marina. Emma felt her stomach tighten. And when I got home, I noticed someone standing in the background. A long silence followed, the kind of silence that felt dangerous.
The woman continued, "I saw a missing person documentary years ago. Your face stayed with me." Emma's fingers tightened around the phone. "That's impossible." "I thought so too." Another pause. Then the woman said the words that would change everything. "Mrs. Walker, I think your husband is alive." Emma didn't sleep that night. She stared at the photograph until sunrise, again and again and again. The image wasn't perfect. The man stood near a fishing dock, partially turned away, older, thinner. His hair was different. There was a beard, but it was him. The shape of his face, the way he stood, the slight bend in his left shoulder from an old injury. Details only a wife would recognize. Details impossible to forget. For 10 years, she had imagined seeing Daniel everywhere. But this wasn't imagination. This was evidence. Cold, terrifying evidence. And for the first time since the day of the accident, Emma realized something far worse than losing her husband: finding him. The next morning, Emma called in sick to work. She sat at her kitchen table with the photograph spread out in front of her. The image had already become wrinkled from being handled so many times. Every few minutes she found herself studying it again, looking for proof she was wrong, looking for evidence that grief had finally broken her mind. But every time she examined the face staring back from the marina, she reached the same conclusion. It was Daniel. Somehow, some way, it was Daniel. By noon, she had convinced herself to let it go. By 1 o'clock, she was searching online for private investigators. By 3 o'clock, she had hired one. His name was Victor Hayes, former detective, 22 years in law enforcement, the kind of man who looked like he trusted nobody, which was exactly what Emma needed. She handed him the photograph. He studied it for several seconds. "What do you want me to find?" "The truth." Victor nodded. "The truth usually costs more than people expect." Emma looked at the image one final time. "I've already paid for it." 3 weeks passed. 3 agonizing weeks. Emma jumped every time her phone rang. She barely ate, barely slept. Part of her hoped the investigator would call and tell her she was mistaken, that the man in the photograph was someone else, anyone else. Because if it really was Daniel, then every memory she had spent 10 years protecting would become contaminated. Every happy moment, every anniversary, every promise, every "I love you." All of it a lie.